Dear RainMa, I was given your name from a friend that felt you may be able to help with our youngest child who's been experiencing the sudden onset of restlessness, night terrors, and bedwetting since we moved into our new home. My husband and I and our teenager don't see or feel anything unusual out of the ordinary, and overall we're really happy with our move and our new house. No problems with our teenager either. But our youngest has been having issues at night, and as of late has been having issues with anxiety even during the day. It has been 4 months since we moved, and it's not gotten any better. Like I said, the rest of us have settled in beautifully, but C is clearly sensing and experiencing things that we can't seem to help with. I would love to schedule a session with you to gain some insights as to what's happening and what we can do. The interrupted sleep is starting to take a toll on all of us. This is beautiful, and I want to say that I do have permission to share. I did not share the child's name because that's also something I think it's important as far as consent, but I do have the parents' permission to share, and I do think that it is beneficial, and this is where I am going to make a point to cover, to do some Q&A that I get from emails, or also sometimes when I'm working with clients. If there's a pattern and the same thing comes up at least 3 times, I'm being guided to share it with a broader audience with the intention and hopes that it can possibly serve and help others who may be experiencing the same things. So, and I will say, I have already worked with this star seed / new kid, and all is well. So that shouldn't ruin it. It should also, be a confirmation that it's not something that will never go away, or the house is haunted and blah, blah, blah. None of that. There's just some important things. And I will say, just as a shout out to the parents as well, like many of the parents that I get to work with, I am so honored and happy that there are parents who are literally, even if they cannot see or experience, or they don't have any experience with what may be happening with their child, they're open and they want to see it resolved. They want peace in their home. They want to be able to consider things outside of those realms. And in many ways, I speak, even for my child self, who at that age wishes that I had some of these insights and ways to be able to handle things that were happening for me psychically, energetically, in all the ways. So hope it helps. So first of all, this was not a haunting in any way. So even being in a new home, which is why also the parents kind of confirmed, and even our oldest child, or the teenager, loved the home and loved being in the space. But what was happening is that we'll call the child C, just by the first initial of his name. Since the move, a lot of his psychic abilities were starting to come online, and that had to do with a lot of the ley lines, also some of the dragon energies. But to me, that's also you can just call them ley lines, right? Because it's also, they're energetics, they're frequencies, and the ones that were coming into the space at night were part of his entourage, part of his A-team, ancestors, angels, and he does a lot of work in dream time. So a lot of that had been happening without conscious awareness, even when they were in their other house. But where this house is located, which is again beautiful. I'm really, really happy for them that this is a move that they all love, and the house, because it really is located perfectly, located in a space that is fantastic. But this child was literally just needing some assistance to how to connect with some of the energies that are there to work with him. Yeah. And if for ones that are not aware of, for some star seeds and new grid kids, sleeping is not just sleeping. A lot of the ones that are coming in, literally, they could probably maybe 2 to 3 hours of just sleep, but the rest of the time, on a spirit level, on a soul level, they're doing work in other dimensions. They have other things that they're doing, yeah? And I think with this child, being that things were starting to come online in the ways, and then to be more conscious of it, and probably also some of the angels and the I call them your A team, your angels, ancestors, ascension council guides. It's like your entourage. They were flooding in and coming into the space, and it was causing fear. So one of the things that I will say with kids is to equip them to also, first of all, just like you would go into say you walk into a room, yeah, and you walk into, it can be a party or you go to some event or something. When you walk into the room, imagine you see like there's a whole room full of people, right? Well, if you don't know any of them or you haven't met yet, the first thing you're going to do is kind of, you step into the space and then you'll introduce yourself. So I say for a lot of even the kids to be able to say, like, acknowledge the energies that are there, ask them, what is your name? Invite them closer. That's, again, one of the things that I not only, well, as a child, but also just in general, for the most part, if there are spirits and energies that are coming in, I really, 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 really strongly encourage that you invite them closer, because they're not usually, even in situations where they're like, oh, this is a haunting or something. Usually that's not the case. You want to ask some questions to see what is this energy. And it also enables the child to take command of not only their vessel and their space, but it allows them to be able to walk in armored with I call it their armor of God, right? Their God presence. That in any room, any space, any place on this planet, their energy and their armor of God, their I am presence is anchored, and they're free to be in any space. So just as they're free to be in any space, there's also Siskala, Niskala, the seen and unseen, and ones who are also occupying space in other dimensions. And the fact that they're able to come through and they're very much aware of the ones that can perceive in different ways, sometimes they're just needing some assistance. Now, again, that's a little bit of a personal projection, because that's something that has been a part of my work for many, many years. Whereas sometimes where you're afraid of, you can sense or feel an energy, I'm usually one that goes, okay, come closer. Who are you? What is it that you need? How can I be of service? And usually even the ones that are kind of, like they can be spirits that are confused, say if it's not part of their entourage and it's not work that they're doing in other dimensions, sometimes even if they're sensing in their spirits, they're like, ooh, this being can help me. This being can maybe assist me. And how do I get to the other side? I don't really want to be here. So sometimes even there's an innocent confusion with even ones who are occupying a space, because sometimes they just haven't been able to cross over in different ways, right? So I'm all about that. It's not about fear, really, with love and with compassion, and especially if we are teaching our children to be in command and be in their body, that it is safe to be embodied. There's some simple things that we can do to assist in that way. So one of the things, and ritual is also, I think, a beautiful tool. I use it constantly because I love it. But one of the things that served not only this child, but I think is helpful for many, is anchoring your light body. But first of all, it's also about calling in your I am presence and really spinning it around you. So it's I am in all of the directions. So, and also preparing for sleep. So that's also part of it, because you want to be able to relax. You want your child to be able to relax and to feel safe in their bedroom, their sanctuary. So to begin with, having a specific candle, like having tools that they can use and that they have the authority and the power, like, okay, so now I'm creating the space in which I want to sleep. And in that space, that sanctuary, it needs to be clear. So by having a candle, if it's okay to have a candle or a nightlight. So imagine if you don't want to use fire, depending upon age appropriateness. But I also think bringing in all of the elements as early as possible is just normal. So I wouldn't have fear of fire either. But if it's not a candle, it can also be a nightlight, that when you're turning on that nightlight, you are activating your I am presence and the light to surround, and that's coming from within to cast in the entire, it's to create the sanctuary, right? And then mantras, I also think, mantras are also pretty powerful, but the I am in all of the directions is really pretty powerful. And I think it works for adults and for children. And in this case, it did. And gave the sovereignty, the authority of, like, this is my room. I'm claiming the space, right? So I am in all directions. I am before me. I am behind me. I am at my left. I am at my right. I am above me. I am below me. I am unto me. I am, I know I am. I am, I know I am. I am, I know I am. Just speaking and saying those words also creates the space. So again, it is really important to have a sanctuary and a safe space, yeah? And I do like the fact that parents are teaching their children to have command over their bodies and their space. So that's a powerful tool. And then, so now look, with this particular starseed child, the energies that were coming in were not energies that were like that needed to be returned to light or anything in that regard. I think I went on a little tangent because sometimes that can happen. And I do remember that for myself as a child, that there were, and then in many countries that I've lived in, that has later been something that I was called to do. So again, things are happening younger and younger and younger for kids, and they're amazing beings, and they do have things that they're doing, yeah? But I will say, for this particular child, it was literally their Ascension Council. It was their A-team. It was their angels. And because their psychic gifts were starting to come online, and it was coming online in the ways that it was energetically, it was more intense, and it felt scary because at first it's like, well, I don't know this, and I don't know this spirit. I don't know these energies. And sometimes they don't see them as like literal physical beings. They can literally just be orbs of light and feeling their presence. Yeah. So that was also this, a child was also getting really, really cold, which is also sometimes you can feel the change in temperature, and you can feel presence, and yet not knowing who and what it is. So that's the other part of empowering them to ask and say, who are you? So this is my space. And I'm the first to also say that as much as there are many other different planes of existence and dimensions and, seen and unseen in different ways, I still am a firm believer that we also get to set boundaries with spirits. And so you can also be very clear in and requesting and saying to the energies of like, okay, state your name. I would like to know who you are, that it's not, you're not a victim to things happening and, on all of that. So anyways, this child was able to do that. And now literally there is no bedwetting. There is no fear. Not sleeping in mom and dad's bed, which again, that's also beautiful. But what was happening at the time, the child was in their other house, was sleeping and loved to be, and was sleeping perfectly and had no issues. So again, I'm not saying anything's wrong with having your children in the bed, but because it was coming from fear and it was anxiety and there was other things going on, it's fantastic that this one is happily in dreamscapes and also having an understanding. And this is, I think, important for many to understand that, again, sleeping, I'm huge, even when my son was little, and really anyone. Sleep is sacred. It is a space, because even in general, and this is also even when they wake up, to really, for it to be a gentle coming back into their body and into their, into their physical vessel. There should not be any rude awakening in those ways, because it's sacred. And a lot of them are doing things in different dimensions, even for ones that are even in the womb space. That's probably another conversation in another moment. But a lot of times, it can almost be a waste of time being in the body when they're able to do so many other things in different levels and in different dimensions. Yeah. So anyways, I am presence. If I am is not comfortable, which again, to me, that's God presence, right? It is the creator and creation are one. So calling in your I am presence, your higher self in the 6th dimension, oversoul, 12th dimension. But to me, I am is part of what encompasses all of that. And to me, that is the armor of God. Yeah. God is absolute, whatever you call the divine. And for not only children, but for ones to really understand that is who we be. And you can walk with the light that is you into any space, place, and should be able to sleep peacefully and freely. So anyways, like I said, this child, as soon as also having the power to be able to take the not control, but maybe it is. It's authority to step into it and go, okay, so this is what's happening. And again, I cannot say enough the kudos to the parents who, even because they don't experience it, but they're willing to say something's going on here. And that's part of also connecting with the village. This is what happens in our global community, is that even if there's certain things that are not part of their awareness or sight or experience, they're willing to consider that there is something going on. And yeah, it was resolved within 2 days, and it's fantastic. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. What else? Okay, so let's kind of stick on this topic a little bit. This is someone saying, can someone really cast roots on you? So this is talking about like black magic, roots, hex, yeah. And then there's another one. I'm going to address both of these in this Q&A. This is another one, and it fits along this line. So talking about Mami Wata. It says, Mami Wata has a negative impact on my body. Whenever I travel across water, bathe, or when it rains, it causes my head, neck, and torso to spasm violently. I was told someone did a curse using the water spirit. Any suggestions? Okay, so I'm going to address this first, and I don't always respond. This is also why I'm going to do more Q&A and do it in a form that people then can dip in if they choose, see if there's information that resonates for them. And this was someone that I literally had sent a transmission to of how you call your power back. And the person's like, I tried it. It didn't work, right? And it was very, very quick, even in the response, which then, again, I attuned to the person's energy, and I realized that they have no command. They have no command over their energy, which is also why I don't work with everyone. And it's not because, it's for me, it's resonance, right? So this is the way I'm going to address and answer some of this. So even again, can someone really cast roots on you? Or then here, they're literally, and the first thing I heard even with this person, they're like, okay, so it's Mami Wata, which first of all, as a daughter, as a priestess of the goddess and a daughter of Ma, right? Ma to me is the cosmic mother of the one. And then there is extensions of the divine feminine, the primordial mothers, right? Which waters, earth, land, there's many, 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 yeah? First of all, Mami Wata is not responsible in any way, shape, or form in this energy. Now, because I want to be also very, very clear, and because my personal experience, I've lived in so many different lands, and because of my path as a womb shaman and priestess, and my literal physical being has been called to live in many different places, where you also have to consider the context that magic, which again, so I mean, even if you're in the United States, right, there's black magic that's happening all the time. It comes through your TV, it comes through all kinds of things, right? You can walk in the mall and there's all kinds of things. So, but what's being spoken of here and what I'm addressing, that also culturally in many different lands, there are ones who are practicing. And I don't even think it really has anything to do with when you say white magic, black magic, casting roots or hex. Light and dark exists. It's life, right? It's just simply what is. But I'm always going to go back to, even like what we're talking about with the children of like your I am presence. It's important for people to remember their divine sovereign nature, to really come into their power in ways that they're not just at the whim and at the mercy of, oh, this person over here did a spell, which is actually in many cases, especially, and I've seen it, where there's jealousy, there's envy, there's different things. People can cast spells and things like that. But if your own physical light body and energetic field is strong, as well as consciousness. So this is why, again, now with the one who is speaking about that mummy water or the siren spirit has a negative impact on my body whenever I travel across water, bathe, or when it rains, causes my head and neck and torso to spasm violently. Okay, so the reality is, so that's life. Your waters, your holy waters that are in your physical body are so subjected and at the mercy of these things. I think it's time to call your power back. It's really, really important. And it may be, this is why I also want to address this, because the collective consciousness, so depending upon your belief system, like this is why even in the exchange where I said, okay, here's a transmission for you, here's how you can call your power back. If that person's energy and I am presence and will within her own being, he or she, I don't know if this was actually a he or she, it doesn't really matter. I can't tell from I don't know. So you can say something, but this is where, again, somebody's power, your word, the voice, the power of your word or your I am presence, your embodiment. Even if you say some words, if it holds no power because your belief system is caught in a tsunami of fear and feeling in victim consciousness in that way, then there's not much that can be done, which is why I would say it's important to then strengthen your system, to strengthen your body and your system. And I will say, on behalf of Mami Wata, she's clear she's nothing to do with that. She has nothing to do with that. Now, I will say, again, this is again going into the cultural context as well. If the beliefs themselves are so strong, or also sometimes even ancestrally, there can be ones in the family that have different contracts, different things, so I'm not discounting that those things can take place, but I really do believe that we are divine sovereign beings, and we are not meant to be. This is where too, and so I'm going to just give a couple of my own personal experiences and just see if that lands. Because there's obviously in different cultures and belief systems, if you believe in the power of such practices, if you do believe and have these superstitions, it can affect you, and it is very real. So this is also why I will say, even in the sense of like, if somebody's like, well, it's just love and light and you just cast light, there are literally malevolent energies and spirits. Absolutely. But I do not think in any way, shape, or form those energies are stronger than our own I am presence. So even to the one who's saying, I'm a victim of every time I take a bath or a shower or I fly over water, I'm having violent spasms, I strongly encourage you and invite you to call your power back. Because that to me is living then hell in these planes, on earth, and saying, well, that's just how it is. Then I can never take a shower. It just is a little, I would make it a priority to really strengthen my light body, to really take command over my physical vessel, because that is something that, again, even I'm going to share a couple of these stories. So first of all, where am I going to start with that? I'm going to start in Indonesia, when my son was, with the first few years, we lived in Indonesia, and the place that we chose to live, it was in Panastanan. And I remember someone at the time said to me, well, that where you're looking at, that area is known for black magic. Yeah. And again, part of my path as a priestess and my direct entry apprenticeship with Ma, Ma Mystery, Mami Wata, the goddess. In many, many cases and many lands, it was a part of my initiation to walk into spaces and places and not turn away in fear, but literally to step into it and say, okay, let me see, come closer. The place that we lived, first of all, it was ordained. We were meant to be there, even as far as the ones who became, part of our extended family, village, all of it. Absolutely. So had I been like, I'm not going to live there because it's known for black magic, would be a situation where you're giving power to something that then can totally throw you off, right? But I remember in the beginning when we, at the time, so I want to give you a little bit of a context too. At the time, the tsunami, the tsunami had happened in Aceh. We were in South Africa at the time. And then when we came to Bali, it was like the aftermath of that. And there were a lot of souls that had died, and for me, because I have been working with energy and spirit in so many different ways and so many different lands, even prior, throughout my whole pregnancy, and then it's a part of my work, it's a part of my path as a womb shaman, as a priestess. I remember the first time that I think I had just finished breastfeeding my son. He was sleeping, and all of these energies, all of these spirits started flooding the room. It did freak me out. Initially it did freak me out, because I'm like, okay, they're not I know who my tribe is. I know the spirits that I roll with, my entourage. And then again, even when there's a change of command and there's certain ones that come into the field, later on, I make a practice of okay, who are you? And you can tell by how they feel as they're connected to you. But the ones that were flooding into the space, and literally, I will say for months, it was just, and I would sing, so for me also, how I move energy. This is also another, maybe there's jewels that ones can kind of gain from some of the things that come out of my mouth. But anywhere, I use my voice, I use tonal alchemy and sounds to clear not only my own energy. I sing and I send that energy and those vibrations not only to my cells, which is also another way where you can command and literally speak to your body and your cells. So again, to the one who's feeling overwhelmed and cursed by water spirits. Well, your body is literally 75% water, 70% water. Speak to your cells. Create a coherence with them and communicate that you're on the same team, because that can also be a beautiful practice. But I digress. All of the energies that were coming into the room were ones who literally died in the tsunami, and they didn't have the rituals and the burial and the what was part of culture and custom. So in that, there was like this understanding, like, because this is where what happens too. I'm trying to explain that how your consciousness also, even after you cross over, your level of consciousness still kind of stays with you. So in that's also where I say, for ones who are, if there's spirits that are coming in and it's like, what is this? Sometimes if you're able and to say, okay, what is it? How can I assist? What is it that you need? They literally just wanted help because they didn't have the ceremonies and things that would then release them from their body. And so for me, I'm like, it was brand new at the time to help ones to cross over in that way. But it was literally, there was no way I could even do each one. So I just started singing. I even have a track that I recorded. Again, what I did also with my son, who was sleeping, he was a baby at the time. The same energy where I literally will cast, and someone's like, can someone cast roots on you, cast a spell? Yes, but you can also cast your own roots in a beautiful way where you are literally anchored and connected to the center, to the core of the earth, and you run your light and you put you connect all the way up into your highest light body, your highest being, and you're anchored in your physical body. Yeah. And that was something that I did even with my son, is I literally just created a bubble around him, which again, you can use imagery, you can do lots of things where you protect your space. But I also think even more so than protecting, it's communicating to yourselves, to your cells, the safety and your power of presence, your I am presence, your God presence, and also not to negate in any way the ones that roll with you, your ancestors, your entourage. They're happy to be of assistance too. So sometimes that's also part of it as well as calling them in, saying, okay, you know what? I need help. For me, in those situations, because there were so many energies, because that can happen as well, where energies will come in and they're like, oh, she can see. Oh, she can help us. And then literally it's like a flood. Same with how it even works for me, even with my business. It has always been that way, whether it was from body work to different things. The ones that you are meant to see, they just find you, and it happens in any place, any land, any whatever. It's how it works. But the same happens also with spirits. So sometimes if you are a person who is awakening and your own psychic energies, and sometimes it can happen that way in a sense of an initiation, or it'll seem like it's an illness or there's a curse or something, but then it is in you regaining your command of your own physical vessel, and coming out on the other side of that, where then you see, oh, wait a minute. And then that same person. So I hope that even the person who's speaking about, having all these issues with water and feeling, jinxed or hexed in a certain way, I hope that there is a victorious outcome in the sense of reclaiming your energy and power. And then who knows, that can also be part of your path and helping others to not be a victim of evil spirits. Because then, and again, think about it, walking as a divine, sovereign, free being on this planet. There's water everywhere, water within you, water everywhere. You have to bathe. I think that even in itself, as far as your auric field and just in those ways, I wouldn't be avoiding water. And I am not negating and saying that there are not people out there that do certain rituals and different things. But if your own center and your own being as is anchored and aligned in your God presence, and your armor of God, I am presence, is totally fully online and activated, there should not be a problem. Yeah. So anyways, there was, I don't know, this went on for months. And my son would just sleep peacefully, totally uninterrupted. I do use sometimes stones and crystals. There are certain allies for me that also, they love to be of assistance as well. But I also do not feel like you actually need to have those certain things, especially too many times where I've traveled. And if I didn't have something, I don't even have a superstition with like, oh my God, I don't have this stone or I don't have this crystal. I, again, personally love ritual. I love, even in my home, I love to do different things. Is it mandatory and necessary? Does that mean that if I've hopped on a plane and now I'm, in say South Africa or I'm in Germany or whatever, does it mean that, oh my God, I didn't bring this particular thing? I don't think you should get that superstitious with things. It should not be a crutch outside where you don't have command of your own physical being. Yeah. So anyways, to just kind of bring to a close the spirits and the souls that were literally just wanting assistance in crossing over, Rainbow Bridge crossing over. It was fantastic. And it was like on the job training in the sense of too my own apprenticeship with spirit in those ways as well. And again, I knew they weren't connected to me. So again, I think that's another way too, where I'm just kind of inviting ones to, before immediately going to fear, if you're in your body and in your vessel, ask the spirits, just like you would ask a stranger if you walk into a room and you see a person and you don't know their name. It's, well, who are you? How can I help you? Because usually, sometimes even the way certain energies and things come through, they don't know how to communicate. I've even had ones come through literally from spirit saying, how can I communicate? How can I get this message to, my son or daughter? I'm having trouble. I don't know how to do this, to get the messages through, because it's like a frequency. They communicate on different levels, and everybody receives in the ways that they do. But I will say, had I bought into the idea, even, when I first decided to move to Penasthanan from Chandidasa, had I literally even given into my own fearful thoughts, or like, and then hearing the collective of like, well, that's known for black magic, you don't want something, no, because then we had I can't imagine what our experience would be had we not lived there. It was so fantastic. Now, another story that I'll speak to, and this has to do with food, and then probably still in the same context of like, can someone place, they put a spell on your food or whatever. And I've had these things happen. Yeah. So I'm just saying, and this is again, cultural context. And I want to demystify it somewhat too, because again, there are ones who are like, ooh, someone puts this spell on your food and you're in this land and you want to say that. Anyone who is not cooking with prasad, with reverence and love, like whatever's going on in their physical being, to me, this is again, this is personal, but I do think like that's a spell as well. If someone is making the food and they have a nasty ass mindset, they're negative, they're gossipy, they're all the things, right? And they're cooking your food. To me, that's a spell. And there are many people who, again, so this is where, again, I'm currently in the United States, and it's like you people are eating stuff all the time. And to me, there's spells. There's all kinds of stuff in it. So the ability to clear it, or also to be able to refrain. So now this was another example. This was in Indonesia. as well. And this is where too, even in life, right? It is part of life. Yeah. That there are ones who can have, from their own distortions within their own being, can also have their agendas and feel jealousy and, whatever. And there was, one day I came home, from wherever, right? From Jalan, round in the rice fields, doing whatever I was doing. I came back and there was this huge thing of food in the kitchen, and it was covered. And I walked in and I walked by it. As soon as I walked by it, I could feel this energetic frequency coming from the food. And I was like, ugh. And I could feel it. It was like a dark energy. It was just didn't feel good. And it was nothing that I would like to eat. And so again, now this is my own experience with it, but anywhere that I go, I don't care if it's something to drink, or food or whatever. Literally all you have to do is pass your hand over it. You feel it. What's the energy? And then connecting with your sacred vessel, with your body, and saying, what is this? How does this feel? And if your energy is like, no, then don't eat it. So in that particular case, I felt it. I don't know how it got there or where it came from, but I threw it in the garbage. I just dumped it. And I remember my sister Made, Ibu Made, literally came running in maybe about 5 minutes after, and she was like out of breath, and she's like, Ibu Amber, what did you eat? Where's the food? Where did you? I said, and I was like, why are you freaking out? What? She goes, there was food here. Where is it? And I told her I threw it in the garbage, and she's like, how did you know to throw it in the garbage? And I'm like, it was bad. And she's like, and then the story came. There was somebody in the village whom, just again, in whatever, did not like my energy. Yeah. And there was a little bit of jealousy, because that happens too. That's also life, right? And it was a woman that, again, I knew in passing when I saw her. It's also the same in the sense of frequency. It is not that their I am presence and that their soul and their being is not light. There's distortions in the field, and there's energies that are coming forth that are out of alignment, that just simply feel, and I won't even say like light or dark, good or bad. It's just not in resonance. So for me, in the key of frequency and resonance, I choose who and what feels good and what feels in alignment with my soul. And that includes things to drink, that includes food, that includes people, that includes places, all of it. So this woman clearly had an issue with me, and did cast a spell on this food, and then placed it in my kitchen. And so again, if I'm not connected to my vessel and being, maybe I would have just walked in and be like, oh, because I was breastfeeding at the time, so I was always hungry. But not hungry enough to just eat something that, again, in full presence, you experience and you go, no thanks. That's not going into my body, right? That's also having a partnership with our bodies, which is fantastic, right? So again, it was thrown out. Made, that was kind of, we had many, many experiences on so many levels, mystical realms and different things. That were for us to experience. And she felt responsible, because she knows, as well, and even as in general, that there are people can cast spells, and people can feel envious of her family was doing better. So it was also in it, there was some things with regard to that. But again, I say all that to say is that even if someone does cast a spell on something, you still are in command of what you ingest, what you put into your body. And even now, I will say this, even if I had eaten it, say I did, because there's situations too. Well, you can also, you call on the powers of transmutation, and you can, you know what I'm saying. I think it's better to not bring it into your field, but it's a case case by case. This is just me sharing some of those examples. I remember in Ethiopia as well. I remember I was meeting a friend of mine and at his family's house, and I got there before he did. And I remember I sat down, and now this is why, again, I want to take out the seed of like light and dark and good and bad, evil, whatever. Just energy. Just put your hand over something. How does it feel? I arrived, and we were having lunch. We were, having dinner, and it was in the mountains. And I remember the glass, everyone that poured glasses of water. And I remember as I sat there, which again, was part of my experience in traveling, in being in so many different lands and places where I do not have the language or things. It's like it was all about how does it feel? Just about energy, just about frequency. I remember I put my hand, the water, as soon as it was placed in front of me. I sometimes see. Most of the time I feel, but I saw the water, literally, it turned black, but not literally. So again, in my first eye, or what some people call your third eye, it turned black. And when I put my hand over it, I could feel like a pain in my hand. So I just personally chose not to drink the water. I didn't make a big thing out of it and say, did someone try to poison the water, blah, blah, blah. And probably about a half an hour after, we all, started eating, and my friend arrived later, and he looked at me, he's like, and he looked in the water, he goes, how did you know not to drink the water? He goes, it's bad today. And so there was also, again, now, even in that bad, that's all relative too, because in the sense of like my body, because I'm not from there, my body would have reacted and likely would have gotten sick from drinking the water. Now, his family, his sister, mother, cousins, brothers, like all the ones who were also there, their system is totally used to it. Even their microbiome, their body is okay. Yeah. And they wouldn't have gotten sick. So me, that's also just kind of an example of frequency. And so since he no longer lives there too, he's like, he would have gotten sick because he's in a different part. But when he was younger, his microbiome and body was okay. But even he knew, like on that day, he's like, he could tell the water was not okay. And he said, whatever. But so it's just another example of why you want to feel it. You want to feel it and see what happens. And it's a nice play to really come into union and partnership. It's a co-creation, collaboration with letting your body have its wisdom. So in that's where for the one that's speaking about being, kind of a victim of, feeling that there's some hexes and it's come from the water, I really encourage you to strengthen your connection with your body vehicle, because you got it for life until you're no longer in the body. And there can also, this is where, again, I still say rituals are beautiful. This is where I'm a huge believer in the sense of using our different herbal allies and different things. So again, using that intention, as much as there may have been someone who put a curse or a hex or something, and then you feel in your mind and have accepted that to be as the reality in those ways, well, then part of that practice can also be you calling it back and reclaiming it. And even then, if someone gave you, say, okay, here's these herbs and here, do this spiritual bath and light this candle, you still have to have the command of your body and set those intentions. And I think that can be a beautiful practice. I think, and I hope that that's part of this person's experience as well, that it isn't a life sentence of being then, I don't know, never able to travel or have even peace around any kind of water, because, oh my goddess, water is water is life and makes up so much of who and how we be. So I think that will be a good place to end on this Q&A regarding spirits spirits, spells, magic. I think that's all I got. Peace, and more peace.